Hibs, Hibs are falling apart again. Quite enjoying these Friday night football, Callum. Another team from Edinburgh come up, 5 goals and safely dispatched, 3 points in the bag. Happy weekend.
Well, I wasn't expecting you to start with like that, but no, Friday night football, thoroughly enjoyable. I quite like it. It was a very good atmosphere from the Red Shed and even the South Stand singing a bit. And then you've got the rest of your weekend to enjoy yourself after a 4-1 pumping of Hibs. What's not to love?
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't sure if I was going to go into this or not, but, going into the game on Friday, I was feeling pretty low, pretty down, just a lot of things going on in my head and that. And, this podcast has been something that's been good for me, a welcome distraction. And I was in two minds about actually going to Pittodrie, and I'm really glad I did. And I'm really glad that we've got this to speak about and go over a win, because God knows how I'd have been feeling if we'd been speaking of a defeat. So it's really good to have this. And if anyone is struggling, our messages are always open as well. So always look for somebody to chat to as well.
Absolutely, I think a good message to start off with. But I'm glad you managed to make it along and a little bit of distraction. And what's going to pick up the mood better than 4 goals at Pittodrie and Leighton Clarkson back heel? So I'm glad. But yeah, messages always open, whether it's the podcast page on Instagram, Twitter, or ours separately too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you say 4 goals, Callum, we're going to obviously get into the game, but I still don't know how we scored 4 and only conceded 1 either. Baffling night at Pittodrie.
No, not a clue. I mean, I spoke to you and Michael after the game, and I said, I've no idea how you scored 4 there. And then you're like, I've no idea if we only conceded 1. I was like, I wasn't that bad. And then I looked at the match stats, and I was like, it was quite bad. But I suppose it's quite deceiving, because a lot of them were from sort of outside the box and flew over the bar. But especially, going in at halftime 1-0, I was very surprised. It was terrible, and somehow we benefited.
Yeah, I think Willie Miller said on the radio last night as well, it was just Aberdeen proving more clinical in front of goal. Even the possession stats were, I think we only had 38% of the possession. I know Dave likes to dive into them, but just shows that it doesn't matter how much of the ball you have, it's what you do with it. And ultimately we were more clinical. I suppose we'll come on to the VAR decision of the first half as well. But what did you make of that first half in particular, Callum? Because Aberdeen went with a very much similar team that lined up at Ibrox, Hayden Coulson coming in for Jack McKenzie in what looked to be the only change. But things didn't really click for us in that first half, I felt.
No, it wasn't good viewing at all. It was quite boring. We didn't create much at all, other than maybe the Duke's chance, I suppose. I don't know. I felt we struggled really to hold on to the ball to start with. And then when we had the ball, to do anything with it, often playing out from the back when we're all camped in our own half, and found it very, very difficult. And then I think they did make changes at half time, but it wasn't pretty. And I thought, oh no, here we go again. It was going to be a similar result to Easter Road, but thankfully not the case. I wasn't impressed, and thankfully it was changed at half time, despite Jim Goodwin not actually being able to be there, but set up some Zoom calls or something, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting because he's not supposed to be there, but he said he was there on Red TV. So I don't know if he's just getting himself into more trouble. But I also was a big fan of the loophole that he used to avoid his touchline ban by just sitting in the first row behind the dugout and just barking instructions. And there was one decision in particular that I really liked. Obviously, it went against us, but I looked over to where Goodwin was sitting, and he just whacks the seat next to him, and you just see it like bouncing back and forth. It's like how any fan standing up at a game would just react as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all above board though, which is always good to know. But clearly, it didn't affect us. I was worried going into this, to be honest, given how the one previous game when he wasn't on the touchline went. But thankfully, that didn't happen again, because I don't think Pittodrie would have been a very pleasant place had it been a similar scoreline.
No, because you're right. The atmosphere last night, obviously aided by the fact that we were winning, especially in the second half. But even throughout the first half, I thought the Red Shed in particular was in fine voice. As I said to you this morning, I couldn't really hear what the South Stand was like during that first half. But Hibs, Fair Play brought up a strong travelling support as well, and they looked noisy, colourful as well, with the pyro going off in the first half. I suppose they didn't have anything else to use the pyro for, but Friday nights do generate a good atmosphere, and to be honest, we've got a better record on Friday night than we do Saturday evening, so I hope we bin those Saturday evening ideas. Oh wait, next week.
Absolutely, I agree. Although we might change our mind depending on how next week goes. But true. Absolutely enjoyed it. I think I really enjoyed it because it was at home. Had we had to go to Glasgow or somewhere on a Friday night, maybe not, given the troubles that would cause with people trying to get down off work and things like that as well. But no, I quite enjoyed it. It just gets the game out of the way, starts your weekend off right when it's a win like that, and just got the rest of the time to enjoy yourself. Quite a fan of night games, especially Friday night. Get it going. More of that, please, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, now we get to fully enjoy our weekend, recording this on a Saturday morning. What a fine change. Both can enjoy our weekends, and you can enjoy this episode late Sunday night or early Monday on your commute to work. But Calum, I suppose, as I said, it was really kind of an uneventful, largely, first half, with Hibs creating the odd chance and maybe trying to walk the ball into the net than maybe the more clinical nature that we showed. And you're right, that Duke chance in the first half that ended up bouncing off him for a goal kick after some good work in the build-up. But the game really sparked into life and really kind of changed. I think it's safe to say, on the decision that was awarded by VAR, its first use at Pittodrie, to award the Dons a penalty after what can only be described as an unbelievably long wait. I remember saying to Stu, so the board went up for half-time at 8:15, and it was 2 minutes indicated. The half-time whistle blew 10 minutes later.
It was ridiculous. It took forever, absolutely forever. And obviously, of course, at least they got the right decision in the end. Maybe we'll maybe get into that. But the time it took, first of all, to check if it was offside or onside, then for the penalty, and then they decided, after another couple of minutes, you've got to go over and check that. And then obviously the retake, which was actually the right call, to be fair. But it took an absolute lifetime, and I didn't enjoy it at all. It went in like 4 stages before we actually got the goal.
Yeah, and as well, we kind of discussed this previously about what it would be like for a VAR check being in progress at Pittodrie. How would it be communicated? I remember looking over to the screens in the side of the main stand, and I couldn't see anything to indicate that VAR was in progress. And, well, I think this says more about the tannoy system at Pittodrie, but it was so faint I could hardly hear John Mellis indicating that there was a VAR check in progress. Again, even after the retake is scored, when there was a VAR check for possible red card offence as well, it just seemed just so tedious. Both decisions that ultimately landed in goals, the penalty, the Hibs goal, I tweeted out last night, getting to those decisions just seemed to take far too long. And obviously, if it's here to stay in Scottish football, we need to look at a way of speeding that up, because it's taking away that initial moment, that joy. I remember saying to Stu last night as well that, if we score, we've almost got to be like, oh wait, can we properly celebrate? You saw that with the Hibs fans at their goal as well, but it's just going to be one of those things we've got to get used to, isn't it, Calum?
Absolutely. Once they decide it's onside, they should just put it straight to the referee's monitor in the ground afterwards, because I feel like that would really speed up the process, rather than whoever's checking it, I can't remember who it was last night, taking forever to decide, is it worth him going and looking at the monitor? It's onside, it's a potential penalty, go and have a look for yourself. And it cuts out probably a good minute or two of the faff. But it was a nightmare. And for the Hibs goal as well, total disaster. I don't know how it took that long to see that Jaden Richardson was playing them all onside, but absolute palaver. Thankfully, however, when it was David Marshall off the line, they checked that, which was pleasing, even though the length of time still wasn't great either. But it's just ironic. One time, David Marshall didn't check to see if he'd stay on his line, and if it was done, he had it, and it was to be a retaken.
Yeah, very good. On the penalty decision itself, then, I think this is the first time I've seen a penalty awarded in favour of Aberdeen, and have Aberdeen fans tweeting me, or the page anyway, saying that it was never a penalty. We'd be raging if it's the other way. I mean, certainly from my view, at the back of the red shed, your view maybe in Section S, Stonewaller at the time?
I thought at the time, yeah, but the amount of times I've seen it slowed down, maybe changing my mind. But I suppose in real time, that's when you've got to consider it. It looked Stonewall, and there is contact, whether it's made by Duke or Marshall in the first place, I don't know. But very soft. Had it been at the other end, yeah, we probably would have been raging. However, what goes around comes around. I think that's only justice after Easter Road, to be honest.
Yeah, I liked how that was Johnny Main's barometer, as he said. If we'd be raging at the decision going against us, was why his comments were of that nature about the penalty award. But you're right, karma. It's fine. It's nice for us to get that decision in the end. But I just wonder, with the kind of, outcry around this decision, there was a lot of comments after the Rangers game, the way Duke went down in the box, obviously, which led to Connor Barron going on and scoring. And then there was an incident in the second half, I don't know if you remember it, where Duke was breaking towards the box, and I almost felt he was waiting for the contact to occur. And I think Rocky Bashiri sticks his leg out on the edge of the box. But Duke goes down very theatrically, and I just wonder if it's just going to come back to haunt us. Some of the kind of, obviously now we've got VAR to kind of help, but he does kind of go down a bit dramatically, I think it's safe to say.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I suppose a lot of the time, if he stays on his feet, even though if it is a foul, he probably wouldn't get it. But at the same time, it is very dramatic at times. I mean, there was one in the Hearts game as well, which I thought at the time, Stonewall, I haven't seen it back, absolutely not. When they were attacking the Dick Donalds. But yeah, it maybe is something, but at the same time, if that's what you need to do to get the fouls off the referees and other teams' players do it as well, then I'm okay with it. I'm no doubt at some point he'll come back to bite him and he'll probably get a booking for diving, probably on several occasions. But I mentioned Rocky Bashiri there, by the way. I couldn't believe how good he was at times last night. Where did that come from?
What about Anthony Stewart? What did you make of his performance? Because Johnny Main was quick to message me last night saying, after obviously our game of Battleships on last week's show, when I said Anthony Stewart was a hit, what did you make of his performance? Because I thought he was solid enough in the air, but maybe a bit ropey again with the ball at his feet. Yeah,
exactly that. I think that tends to be the case with him. I think we're just going to have to get used to it because he defends the box unbelievably well. Balls in the air, he's almost guaranteed to win it. And he's got some great upper body strength and things like that. But yeah, it's not even if he's trying to play out from the back most of the time. It's just when the ball goes through and he goes to cut it out, what he's going to do with it, you never know. Sometimes he should play it back to the goalkeeper and it'll be easy, it'll be straightforward. Sometimes he cocks it up like we saw against Hearts. And then, so he didn't do that on one occasion against Hibs, I remember in particular. But then also sometimes he tries to control it and he goes out for a throw-in, and I just much rather he just boot it into the stand and just deal with it there and then so we can get set up. Having said that, how we deal with some throw-ins occasionally, maybe not the best, but with the ball at his feet, not good, but penalty box defender, pretty good. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, but I look more foolish calling Leighton Clarkson a miss after his performance last night. But we will stick to the defence just now. We'll come on to Leighton Clarkson in a minute. I think overall last night, despite looking like we could concede at any moment in the first half, I think the defence did a decent job overall last night. I thought the centre-backs dealt with, certainly as we just discussed there, the aerial threat coming into the box relatively well. Jaden Richardson probably had his best game all round for us, both defensively and going forward. And even Kel Ross as well. I thought he was, quite commanding of his box. There were a couple of times where I thought he'd be better off catching the ball, but I really like his no-nonsense attitude I'm just going to clear everything and anyone out and just punch that ball to anywhere. Just no-nonsense goalkeeping. It's quite refreshing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, other than for Jaden Richardson, playing the guy on side for their goal.
Yeah.
I think it was unfortunate, to be fair, but I did think he actually performed pretty well, and not just at going forward. Yeah, defensively he looks a little bit better too, which is encouraging. But I'm not going to hold my breath. Hopefully it does carry on though. And on Kelleros, I mean, Hibs had a lot of chances from outside of the area, but Kelleros did deal with those well when they came, if they didn't go flying over the bar. And also, I do agree in terms of commanding his area as well. Far better. Sometimes, I do agree, he could catch ball. There was one where the header was straight at him and he sort of did a one for the cameras and tipped it over the bar. But at the same time, still didn't mind it. At least he dealt with it rather than perhaps trying to catch it, fumbling it. And he loves a good punch, but the good thing is he's not flapping at it. Makes good connection with the fist and gets it clear. So it's certainly encouraging signs sort of all round. Where they couldn't really pick out too many issues with the game last night, which is pretty good.
I know, yeah. I suppose, like I said, it's only just the VAR issue, really, and how long it took. But how important was that for us to go in 1-0 up? And because you kind of felt through that first half, we've just said there kind of no really issues to kind of complain about. But is that maybe just because we're speaking now on the back of winning 4-1? Yeah. Because there were definitely grumblings from the crowd in that first half. Some of the play, loose balls, as you said, we were struggling in possession. There was a couple of moments where we kind of passed the ball out of play stupidly or lost the ball cheaply. It was met with boos. And the other thing that I don't know why we decided to start it last night was this, taking the goal kick short and keeping the ball in our 6-yard box. Some of the play between Rose, Scales, Coulson and Stewart respectively was very nerve-wracking to watch at times in that first half.
Yeah, I do agree. I suppose what I should say is maybe individually there was no real complaints for the players. In the first half, we were poor. And we were penned back, still trying to play out from the back when Hibs were pressing high, trying to prevent that exact thing, which we didn't really counteract very well. And there was a few scary moments. I didn't enjoy the goalkeeper tapping it to Stewart or vice versa. Not at all. And there was a couple of times I was thinking, just stop fanning about, get the defence up the park and hope that Duke or Miovski can get on the end of the goal kick or something. But it wasn't great. And I think they did change at half time. I think it was helped. I think we did sort of push the fullbacks higher up, which then allowed the 3 centre-backs a little bit more space, which helped. But very important to get that goal, which I don't think over the basis of play was probably deserved. At half time, I was thinking massively, I don't know how we're up 1-0. We definitely don't deserve it, but it's great that we are. And that was basically the case. Had it been 0-0, we couldn't have had any complaints whatsoever.
Yeah,
but
to be honest, I think no, absolutely. And I think had it been 0-0 at halftime, I'd probably been delighted because we were definitely on the back foot for large spells of that first half, and to go 1-0 up just felt like a bit of daylight robbery, especially with the benefit of having the retake as well. Because to be honest, for Bojan and probably the standards he set himself, the first penalty is pretty poor, and he gets very lucky with the second penalty as well. There was also a VAR check again once the second penalty went in for David Marshall booting the ball off of Bojan, but I think Steve Tosh wasn't sure what he was doing it on commentary on Red TV, but I definitely don't think it's intentional from Marshall that the ball makes contact with Bojan.
I don't really know what he was doing, but ball towards the main stand. However, for anything to happen because of that wouldn't have been, I don't think would have been right. But the fact that the players got amongst it and sort of stuck up for him was pleasing to see, to say the least. But there were so many VAR checks over that goal. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I was beginning to lose count and just wondering what's standing, what's not. But as I said, we took the lead. We go in at half time, and you think, right, okay, let's see how we can build on it. And Bojan will be probably the first player this season to score in the same minute of different halves, scoring in the 53rd minute of the first half, and then doubling Aberdeen's lead, being unmarked from a Leighton Clarkson corner to head nonchalantly past David Marshall to send the home fans wild. And for me to kind of felt like, well, we're in a very good position here. I don't know how we're now 2-0 up.
Absolutely agree. I mean, Hibs defending to start with for the corner helped us out a lot there. Bojan is free as a bird in there. But he still has to get the header on target with enough power in the right direction, and absolutely did that. Fantastic header, it has to be said. And I've got to confess something. At half-time, I was asked, if the chance came out, would you buy Leighton Clarkson? And I said, no, I'm not sure, to be honest. I gave him as a hit in the last show, but I said, I'm not sure. The set pieces of late haven't been good. Look what happened.
God, we're really showing ourselves up here around Leighton Clarkson in the last 2 episodes. But hey, if this is going to be how it works, where we slander a player and they bounce back to perform like world beaters, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, fine by me. And to be fair, other than the set piece, I mean, we only went on to get man of the match. Thought he was pretty good. Well, definitely got a lot better in the second half. And yeah, got really saucy later on as well, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, and I suppose for that goal as well, you said, that the Hibs defending helps us massively, but I just like the way Bojan cushioned the header. It wasn't like it thumped back into the net. It seemed to be very delicate and just take its time to get into the net. And if the atmosphere was loud enough already, it just seemed to go up another decibel, and you could, from where I was sitting as well, you could see Section S getting noisy as well to the away end as well. I'm sure the atmosphere, even over in the South Stand, just went up another decibel as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it gave us a little bit of a cushion. They started singing Hibs Are Falling Apart again, which obviously I joined in with. However, I was like, oh, this is far too early for this nonsense. I was a little bit worried. But thankfully, they didn't come back to bite us in the bum. But no, I was impressed with the Section S atmosphere in the second half. Not Section S, sort of South Stand as a whole. I think there's still problems with being in tandem with the Red Shed. We had our own songs going at times, so I enjoyed it. I thought it was very impressive, and they actually mentioned that on the radio as well. It wasn't just the Red Shed. Eventually, sort of the whole stadium got into it, and I think the stand up for the Aberdeen later on really helped as well. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a great time last night, Glenn. Honestly.
Oh, it certainly sounds it, and I suppose another thing as well. That was mentioned on the radio, which I found quite interesting on the way home, was they talked about the crowd. Now, I suppose you've got to caveat this slightly by the fact that the last time the two sides met at Pittodrie was a Saturday 3 p.m. kickoff versus a Friday night, and also Aberdeen had been on the run of 5 straight defeats. Whereas just now, obviously, we were going into this game on an absolute pumping from Rangers, but we're in a much better position. But the difference in crowd was 9,500 to 16,500. I think even at Kilmarnock, at Livingston last night as well, it was over 5,000. So there's clearly an appetite for Friday night football. But do you think we'd have seen a similar sort of 16,000 crowd had that been Saturday? Or do you think we are seeing extra numbers given it's a Friday night as well?
I think there might have been a few more off that. I don't think it would have maybe reached 16,000, but probably sitting 14, 15,000. But the fact that it was a Friday, a lot of people have other commitments on a Saturday, whether it's playing football or taking kids somewhere on a Saturday. That's when usually they've got activities and things like that. I think it just frees up a lot more people to be able to go. And I think we did see the benefit of that. And to be fair, Hibs fans as well, I've not been impressed with the Edinburgh club's away support up here much recently, but they took 1,400 up. Probably helped that it was a Friday night. Maybe a bit of a novelty, perhaps. And credit to them also. I'm just glad that they had a very long and hopefully miserable journey home. But I like the Friday night games. I think we did see a little bit of a boost in that case. And I also want to mention another thing they mentioned on radio was the rapport sort of between the fans and the players now. I think it's obviously largely helped from the Red Shed, but it seems to be like they kind of get it, which I don't think has been the case for a wee while now. Yeah,
no, absolutely. There's definitely that bond. More so at home, it's safe to say. And, I saw folks saying, intimidating atmosphere at Pittodrie is helping generate the amount of goals we're scoring at home this season compared to last season. Even attacking the Red Shed in the second half, how much of a difference that's made, I'm not too sure, but you certainly feel it in the fans. Like, sitting in the red shed, you know that sense of anticipation in the second half is to come. But there's certainly a togetherness. You're absolutely right. But I just wish we would see this kind of same sort of level of performance that we do at home converted when we travel, which of course we do on Tuesday night against Livingston, which we'll come on to shortly in terms of previewing. But we are almost turning Pittodrie into a fortress. That Motherwell game aside, that slight blip, but we do just need to get consistency on the road as well.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a problem so far this season, really, and last season too. But hopefully that sort of thing will come. I mean, we're starting to see it come together at Pittodrie now. And I think in part probably this season, a lot of it had to do with how we play when we're away from home as well. I think that maybe will be adapted. I think Jim Goodwin'S mentioned something like that. I don't know. I can't remember. But I hope we do start, as the consistency starts to build and the team sort of continues to gel even more and things like that. I hope we can start carrying that away from home too. And certainly, hopefully that's come together by the time January the 14th comes around, because otherwise it might not be pretty. But I'm not going to get myself down about that just now.
No, exactly. We won't focus on that. But you spoke about the players now that we've signed getting it. You look at Bojan Miovski and the way he seems to be interacting with the crowd. Duke seems to get it. But one player really, I think, that we signed this summer that really understands it, really gets it, is Ylber Ramadani. How good was it to see that strike hit the back of the net and him go absolutely crazy towards the red shed?
Oh, it was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And not only how mental he went, the red shed absolutely giving it back, him doing his wee Albanian hand sign, beautiful, absolutely perfect. I'm so glad that he's finally got off the mark, and to do it in front of the red shed when you just knew he was going to go berserk was great. And then to get to celebrate a third at the fence as well for us was bloody brilliant. But no, delighted for him, because he, as well as getting it and things like that, from his interviews and things like that, just seems like a lovely, cheeky bloke. Love him.
Yeah.
I'm his biggest fan.
I'll follow you around the country.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. We've not burst into song yet this episode. Folk will maybe be disappointed we're nearly half an hour in.
You mean since the very start of the episode where you burst into song?
Yeah, true. Yeah, no, but in terms of a positive Aberdeen song, which we've tended to be doing. But somebody picked up on the booking that Ylber Ramadani received in terms of celebrating the goal, and why it's only the person that seems to go into the crowd first that ever gets booked, not everybody else. But I suppose another thing someone else said was that, because it does seem that every time we score at home, the players, especially in front of the Merkland, go into the red shed and celebrate with the fans. Now, I'm a big fan of that. I think the rule to book players is a stupid rule, but as someone pointed out, we are going to see an accumulation of needless yellows in a sense for players that are scoring in front of the red shed, which will lead to frustrating suspensions. So I guess you can understand that side of things as well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't noticed many other players getting booked for doing it. So I did wonder whether it was related to the hand gesture that Ramadani did. I don't know if that's me just being stupid. I don't know whether they might view that as political, or for some reason it's the SFA after all. I don't know. But that would be frustrating if they do start totting up. It's a blooming stupid rule, though, isn't it? I think they will just have to attempt to restrain themselves, which is obviously hard when you've got all of the red shed charging towards the front and you've just scored and you're wanting to go absolutely mental. But they're going to have to just learn to leave a metre or something like that, half a metre even. Because if it does come back, it will be annoying.
Oh, I mean, I'm not saying that if I was to bang in a goal in front of a vocal and passionate support like that, I wouldn't be in amongst the crowd either. It's difficult, but obviously people bring up these points and it's worth us discussing, but we're not going to dwell on it too much. Although maybe one thing that will be getting mentioned, I'm sure the club, as much as they continue to put out the positive PR from the red shed in terms of the vocal support. I think there's been a picture circulating on social media of the seats from the red shed, and I wonder if the club will put a bit of negative PR come Monday in terms of some of the damage that's sustained. But surely by now they're just realising that they've just got to accept that the seats are certainly past it and these things are going to happen. I know there's been certain talk of moving to some form of safe standing in the Red Shed, and I think it just highlights the sooner rather than later in terms of that.
I mean, everyone stands up anyway, so it would be as well as making it safe standing, saves replacing seats. But I mean, the Merkland's falling apart anyway. That's the time. So I think move towards safe standing will only increase the atmosphere and things like that as well. So it would be a positive move. However, positive moves, Scottish football, they don't really go hand in hand, do they?
No, they don't. And one positive that we would have loved to have, speaking about today, would have been a clean sheet. And I thought we were going to somehow get ourselves one when it seemed unlikely. But VAR unfortunately confirmed that we were going to not have a clean sheet, ruling that the Hibs goal stood after, once again, another lengthy process. Probably the only downside to last night was not getting that clean sheet for, it's, as we said, a defence that by and large did reasonably well.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. It's annoying that the guy's been played onside, but not an absolute calamity for once, which I think is a positive to a degree. But the length of time it took as well. Once the referee was standing in the middle and it's taken more than a minute, you knew it was going to be a goal. It was just very, very frustrating because Hibs celebrated, then we laughed at them for celebrating when it went to VAR, and then they would celebrate again. What a faff, man.
Yeah, and again, just like the lines, I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures of the lines, certainly the one for us with Duke being onside at the penalty, it's so hard to see kind of how accurately they're drawing the lines. I think, folk have replied to me on Twitter today saying that it's the shoulder we're using, whereas in England, it's like the tip of the sleeve,
so weird.
Which is really weird because it was the shoulder. I thought Duke's foot was further forward than his shoulder, but I'm not going to complain too much. It just, as a fan going to the game, the VAR experience is just horrible. I mean, I've only ever had positive experiences of it, mind you, last night and at Scotland games, but certainly felt when I was at Hampden for the Scotland-Israel game, they reached the decision far quicker than we did last night. But whether that's teething issues or not, I don't know. But I don't trust that it'll get any better.
As we say, I don't think there's always bound to be some sort of teething issues. I mean, you saw it in England where the referees are meant to be a lot better down there. But I mean, putting this lot up here in charge of it, it's definitely going to take time for them to get the grip of it if they ever do.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose the other encouraging thing that despite conceding, we did look a bit nervous, I think it's safe to say, for a few minutes after, but we weathered the storm and then put any sort of nervous energy that might be going around Pittodrie firmly into the North Sea with just a beautiful goal to cap off a brilliant Friday night.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a little bit of nerves. I was absolutely cacking it, admittedly, thinking, oh no, the arse is going to collapse, because how many times have we seen that kind of thing happen? When they score to get back into it with about 15 minutes to go or whatever it was by the time the end of the check. But thankfully, that wasn't to be the case, and we did get the goal, which allowed me to enjoy myself a little bit more breathing room, which is ridiculous because you're still 3-1 up at home. You think, we shouldn't throw this away, but it's Aberdeen. We know it's possible. And what an absolute load of sauce Leighton Clarkson pulled out for that goal. Goodness me. Just so cheeky. I loved it. I mean, I thought he'd cocked it up originally when he didn't just hit it, and when he was sort of face on with Marshall. Porteous didn't get there, which made it even more pleasing. In fact, it didn't even look like he was going to play it, which is good. And then, it was unbelievable. How many times you see a back heel, a player to attempt a back heel in a situation like that, and they sclaff it and it goes wrong, but he made the perfect connection with it, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, he seemed to be the calmest man in the stadium in that situation.
Absolutely.
because as soon as he like miscontrolled it, I thought, oh fuck, like how is he going to get this like out his feet to like regain his composure? I'm Leighton Clarkson, no bother. I only seem to score worldy goals, just nonchalantly backheel that, and it was into like the bottom corner as well. It wasn't just into the middle of the goal. It was like hits the side netting as well. You know, we've been doing moments of the game on this podcast. Admittedly, we've missed it a few times after heavy defeats. Was that your moment of the game last night?
No. I mean, it's a close fought thing, but I'm going to have to go with Ramadani's goal, just because he's great, basically. But Clarkson is a close second, because the technique he showed there, the composure was unbelievable.
Yeah, I think the moment is between Ramadani and also just the atmosphere generated from the red shed throughout that 90 minutes. But I mean, you could also throw in the fact that Porteous was playing Duke onside for the penalty, should have played the ball to stop the fourth goal. So for him to come up and have a very miserable night is equally as pleasing as well.
Absolutely, along with 1,400 other Hibernians, which was very pleasing. As they started to clear out sort of when the third goal went in, and even more so in the fourth one. So I'm just glad they had a miserable time whilst we thoroughly enjoyed our Friday night.
Yeah, I think some of their fans tried to show more fight on the streets of Aberdeen pre-match than some of their players did on the pitch in that second half, by all accounts, looking at some of the videos that have been going on.
Yeah. That was on the nose.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, fine way to round off the night with that goal from Leighton Clarkson, giving us the 3 points that move us above Hibs into third place, 2 points clear of the Edinburgh side with a game in hand. And Callum, we can kind of sit back and enjoy what's to come. We welcome the chase now, I guess.
I guess so. Which
I'm gonna regret saying that, haven't I?
yeah. You are. As soon as you left your mouth, I knew you had fucked up.
I know, in your face.
But it's weird. It's a good position to be in. I know the game in hand is against Rangers, but it's at home, which we seem quite good at. So who knows? Yeah. But good position to be in when, you know, a lot of players came in summer after pretty terrible season last season. I mean, pretty terrible is probably being kind. To be sitting in third, if we were still sitting third going into the World Cup break, then pretty good spot with a semi-final to look forward to. Hopefully a couple more good additions in January. Having a good time. It's a roller coaster of a season, week to week, but I'm having a good time for now.
Yeah, and I suppose it kind of takes us back to a point that we inadvertently, we have to admit, missed from last week's show, where we were asking fans for their questions for us to discuss. And one of the points from Johnny Main where he asked us to discuss the summer signings. He also asked us to give a rating for Jim Goodwin out of 10 based on the current season. Obviously, kind of helped by the fact that we've gone on to win the game tonight, or last night, sorry, I should say. But what would you give Jim Goodwin currently out of 10? And has your marks changed slightly from last week to this?
I was trying to stay composed. Had you asked me last night, I'd have said 10 out of 10 or winning anything. However, for the reasons I sort of just mentioned, where, you know, we're in a good spot right now, we're sitting third, got a semi-final to look forward to, and a chance to recruit in January after the break as well. I'd give them sort of probably a 7 out of 10. There's still obviously room for improvement, the away form to improve on. One signing in particular sticks out in my head that I maybe could have done better with. However, on a whole, I'm very happy with where we are right now. To bring in so many players in summer, to be sitting third with things to look forward to, and 2 games where I know one of them's away from home, but we have one in Livingston, so that's a bonus. And then at home to Dundee United, a chance to put things right as well. I'd give a good 7 out of 10. What are you thinking? Are you ever the pessimist, or are you optimistic?
I'm about half a mark below you. I was a 6.5. I think, you know, some of the defeats that we've taken away from home this season still hurt, especially the manner of the defeats, the way they kind of stick out, and some of the, especially the game management in them, I think has left a lot to be desired. Defensively, we do still have work to be done, but I think, you know, he definitely deserves towards the higher end of the scale, hence going for the 6.5. I don't think he's quite achieved that kind of 7 yet. Maybe if we'd picked up a few more points on the road. Yeah, go on.
If we win both games going into the break, is he a 7?
Yes, he is a 7. If he,
okay, I think that's fair.
I'll take 6 from 6 to get him up to a 7 out of 10 for me. There's just, we're a work in progress, as everyone likes to tell everyone this season, and we're going in the right direction, but just some of the bumps have been a bit bigger than expected. So I'll taper my expectation and put a 6.5 out of 10. But yeah, that's where I'll sit.
I think that's a pretty fair review. I mean, yeah, the away form definitely needs to improve, but good to know that if we do win the next 2 games, then he'll be up to 7. I'll take that.
Yeah, exactly. And we did do predictions with Michael ahead of the game on Friday night, and Michael predicted a 1-1 draw. I went for 3-1, so missed out by just a goal. But well done to MRob101, Red Stewart, Nick Baxter, and Dad1903 on Twitter, who all correctly predicted 4-1. You've won nothing but our respect and a shout out on the show. I'm just glad we remember to do one.
Well done. That's pretty impressive that so many of them got 4-1 right. So yeah, well done.
Yeah.
No, I don't have anything else to give you, but yeah, well done.
Yeah, just exactly. We'll do it again on Tuesday night to win absolutely nothing again. It's just a bit of fun. But said it's Tuesday night football for the Dons, a trip to West Lothian to face Livingston, who themselves played on Friday night, Calum, and came from behind twice to win El Plastico 3-2. So I'm sure the Livy Lions are in buoyant mood. And the SFA, to try and stop the juggernaut that is Aberdeen, have employed Nick Walsh to be the man in the middle. Of course, the man who was in the middle just so recently as our trip to Ibrox. And fellow Blue Nose, supposedly, Andrew Dallas is in charge of the VAR decision. But Calum, both teams obviously going into this game on the back of Friday night wins. Livingston conceding twice from set pieces, Aberdeen scoring twice from set pieces. How do you feel going into this game after Friday night's results for both sides?
Upset now that I know Nick Walsh is in charge. We seem to have him every second week. But I think we're in a good spot. Unfortunately, Livingston quite good these days. Especially at home, yeah, quite good. And obviously picked up a win on the road, but obviously plastic pitch again, so maybe that helped them. And David Martindale, although he looks like he shouldn't be a good manager, is actually a good manager. And they seem to have that dog in them in terms of coming back twice on Friday night. It won't be easy at all. Although we did win there last season, since then not had too good a time down in Livingston. So we're going to need to pull out the bag here and start with our good away form now, because otherwise, exactly what Livingston are like. They'll make it very difficult for us. So let's hope our players are up for fight and don't show that soft touch that we sort of mentioned in the last episode as well, because they've got players to hurt us as well as being absolute dogs.
Yeah, exactly. They've got good fight about them. You look at the way they went to Ibrox and held on for a large period of that game and were unfortunate to only come away with 1 point. And then they've shown some excellent spirit again on the road at Kilmarnock to come away with a 3 points. So I think we know every time we come up against Livingston, especially down there, we're going to come up against a spirited and determined side that are going to look to kind of derail our hopes of cementing that third place or certainly backing up what we've done. Because I think it's imperative that now we go into the break for the World Cup by really cementing third place and not, allowing the likes of Hibs, St Mirren. Obviously, we've got to give them the respect being up there as well. And the Hearts, obviously, now that they don't have European football to focus on, that glimmer of hope going into the game. Do you see us making any changes going into this game as well for the starting 11? Given the fact that it's a plastic pitch as well, I think the Livy boys will be counting how many times we use the word plastic pitch on this show. But, Hayden's had his problems with injury in recent weeks. Could we see a change potentially there for Jack McKenzie? And I just wonder around Connor Barron as well. obviously still maybe managing his minutes back to full fitness. We know that we've seen in the past players that are working their way back to fitness tend maybe to not start these games up on a different surface.
Yeah, I think that was a good avoidance of the use of the word that rhymes with elastic. However, I think, those two changes are probably quite likely. I mean, Jack McKenzie performed fairly well, albeit not at Ibrox. And when he's been coming in for Coulson, he also came on last night as well. And in the middle of the park, it wouldn't surprise me if we did see Vinny, maybe. I think that'd be a bit more offensive than Matty Kennedy, perhaps, who would probably come in and play a bit more of a centre midfielder role, whereas Vinny might look to get up in support of Bojan Miovski. But I think I would like to see Vinny probably come back in. Obviously, didn't feature for us really last night, so that wouldn't be a surprise. But McKenzie might be a bit more defensively solid going to Livingston, because they've got players that can hurt us. I mean, Newbley, obviously, it'll be interesting to see how our centre-backs deal with him. The typical Bruce Anderson to come in and score right before he plays Aberdeen. So that's great stuff. And also in the middle of the park, I think that'll be a very interesting battle, because, like Omiyong and Holt in there going up against Ramadani, I think he'll have a tough task. And whoever's in there, presumably Clarkson and either Barron, Vinny or Kennedy, they'll have a tough ask. And we'll need to get up out on top of that battle, because if you're playing Livingston and that midfield starts to run the game, they can make it very, very difficult for you.
Yeah, and I think, though, we dealt with Newbley very well at the game at Pittodrie, but obviously this will be a different game, whereas Livingston will want to impose themselves on the game. And I think, certainly when they came to Pittodrie, obviously the red card, the penalty decisions affected things, but so did Duke when he came on. Livingston didn't know how to handle him. So interesting to see if they've maybe learned something from the last time. But yeah, interesting point on Bruce Anderson as well, because of course he didn't play when the two sides met earlier this season, but coming in and finishing very well into the bottom corner on Friday night, just typical that he's maybe found himself a bit of form, and always likes to prove himself when coming up against his former side as well. So interesting, because we didn't have that, tall and small combination to deal with, probably Newbley looking to hold up the ball and Bruce Anderson making a nuisance of himself, running off of him. Interesting to see how we cope with that, because we have seen at times this season, it does seem to be more away from home, that when forward players get the ball and drive our defence, we can be susceptible to conceding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Anderson with potential to be like a modern day Shearer and Bellamy, which would cause us serious problems. But yeah, it is a bit of an issue and a bit of a concern. I think a lot of it will come down to our defensive shape. Obviously, at Ibrox, we got it all wrong. This was obviously a very different game. And even the first half against Hibs, we were so deep in our half and allowed them to come on to us far too much. So hopefully that'll be corrected, because they can cause us problems. Livingston, they are a very good team. I think they're no longer sort of these absolute hammer throwing jobbers. Whilst they do have that element to them, they're also very capable of playing. And to be honest, for David Martindale and Livingston, they're looking up the table as well, because realistically, right now, especially with the form of Hearts, that will obviously need to improve. But they've got a lot of injuries, things like that. There's no reason why they shouldn't be setting their sights on maybe even sneaking into that top 5.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, that was another point they made on the radio last night, was that it was a big win for Livingston, putting themselves back into the top 6. Obviously, at time of recording, that is factually correct, and it gives them a platform for the rest of the season to build on. And as much as we're looking at it in terms of giving ourselves an opportunity to cement third, Livingston will be looking at this, a home fixture against a team that doesn't travel well, a chance for them to capitalise and help their cause for later on in the season. So, as much as we said Friday night's game had huge importance for both Hibs and Aberdeen, so does Tuesday, because I think, Callum, I want us to back up these positive results. I don't want to keep having the blip and use these excuses of, it's work in progress, or we need to expect the bumps. No, we really need to start seeing some form of consistency from this Aberdeen side.
Absolutely. I think 2 positive results going into the break, one of them being away from home, as well would really sort of hammer home the point that we're back, baby, and would just give us a good platform to then come back off the international break in a very good position. I think it would do confidence the world of good if we do have another blip, and perhaps going into such a long break when you're not on the most consistent best form. Obviously, you've got a lot of time to think about it. It can be detrimental, so it is important we do sort of hammer things home and hopefully get 2 positive results starting on Tuesday. I'm sure will be a very crisp Tuesday night in Livingston.
Yeah, hopefully it's not raining and there's not a pitch frozen over like the shambles that we had last time when we played Livingston at this time of year in midweek as well. But I think I'm looking forward to seeing both Duke and Miovski kind of cause Livingston problems, hopefully, as well. See if Leighton Clarkson can follow up his fine man of the match performance from Friday night again on Tuesday. And yeah, I think we've got a lot to be encouraged going into this game. And, it's nice, Calum, we've also spoken about the men's team, but, we should probably commend the under-18s as well, who beat Hamilton in the under-18s league 6-0. Alfie Babbage, who just can't stop scoring, bagged himself another hat-trick. We obviously mentioned him and Liam Harvey as part of our last episode, both of them getting on this score sheet. So closing the gap on the top of the table with a game in hand. So well done to the young team and the men's team this weekend, getting positive results.
Yeah.
So
and the women's team. Don't forget Pittodrie winning too.
Yeah, from last week, but I was obviously meaning this week. So let's hope maybe
I'm just giving them their due. All right.
Yes, well, let's hope the women can back up their win as well then. But let's hope then, Calum, we've regained a bit of positivity on this show. Yeah. Let's hope that when we convene on Wednesday, we'll maybe do a live episode Wednesday night to obviously look back at what happened on Tuesday night and then discuss the Saturday night football that we've got to look forward to with a visit of Dundee United to Pittodrie. Let's hope there's more positivity to speak about, because boy, do we need it.
Absolutely. Potential mouth-watering stuff talking about those 2 fixtures. So yeah, if I'll just feel a lot better about myself for a month as well if we're doing better. Yeah,
exactly. It gives us something to look forward to. And I suppose as well would really set up the double header against Old Firm when we come back from the World Cup as well. But what are you going to put a score prediction on the game for Tuesday night?
2-1 Reds. No clean sheet because we can't do that. We're a bit worse away from home, so I don't think we'll be so free scoring. But I've got quiet optimism. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I think it's going to be a grind. I will take the lead. Livingston will pin us back, and we'll see what the side's made of, and we'll grab the winner late in the second half to seal back-to-back wins. That's what I'm going for.
Very specific as well. Enjoy that.
Yeah, I know. I thought I'd take a leaf out of Michael's book, who likes to be very detailed in his prediction descriptions. So
that's true. You can be quite blasé with prediction and then claim it as smart. Whereas if you get it very specifically correct, you could genius.
Yeah. Well, let's see if I am a genius when we come back, or if I just got the scoreline right. But thank you very much for tuning in to yet another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. Let us know your thoughts ahead of Tuesday night, what your thoughts were on Friday Night Football in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to hit that like button. Follow us on social media at RTG_podcast on Twitter, Instagram, RTG.podcast. Wherever you're listening, remember to hit that subscribe button as well. Until next time, thank you very much.
If you want to be a loser and watch Football Manager content, then check out my channel. Thank you. Goodbye.
Go you Reds!
Mousy.